Got a 60s Ampeg Reverberocket with a major issue. A lot of work's been done on this amp before by a previous tech, and they did a really good job. But something calamitous has happened, and the heater secondary, the filament secondary, and the power transformer cannot support any current. If I can disconnect the secondaries from everything else, almost 6.9 volts with modern wall voltage. As soon as it has any load whatsoever, and that can be a single 12AX7, that could just be the heater balance resistors. As long as there is any current demanded of that secondary at all, it drops down to nothing. So it is time either for a new power transformer or for a secondary transformer to be installed with just a 6.3 volt filament supply. My money would be on the new power transformer, just in case something is going wrong on that secondary and it's generating any heat inside the transformer. We don't want to hodgepodge in a second transformer only to have the original one totally fail down the road. Best to just be surgical and get it over with. So I'm going to price suitable power transformers for this model and call the owner and be the bearer of bad news, which is a shame because other than that, the amp's in very good condition overall, has been well maintained. The outside of it's got some cosmetic woes, but that's all that is cosmetic. So let me get the transformer price and call the owner and see where we go from here. Well, it has a new Mercury Magnetics power transformer installed in it, and it's working. Now here's where I run into a problem. The owner said, please only change the transformer, don't change anything else in the amp. I love the way it sounds. And I respect that. That said, when this amp came in, as the condition the amp was in before, the filament supply center tap was going, sorry about hitting the camera, the filament center tap was going to this eyelet here, which originally would have had a 100 microfarad cap to this ground here, because in the original schematic they grounded the secondary, the center tap for the heater supply, the filaments, to ground through a 100 microfarad cap. The previous guy, previous to me, had left that center tap going to this eyelet, but had removed that cap. So there was no ground reference for the heater's supply. The amp would have buzzed terribly. And the owner says that he liked the sound of the amp before. Maybe he thought the buzz was normal, I don't know. I installed that center tap to the cathode of the output tubes because the two output tubes are cathode biased, and that's actually better than ground. I can put it back to the Ampeg, but the Ampeg method through the cap is not very good, honestly. The amp's got some hum because it is an Ampeg from this era with a stock ground scheme, and they have a lot of hum. I'd like to fix that. The owner doesn't want me to. There is DC on the input jacks. I swapped out the 12AX7. That's that tube. I'll let him know that. He'll probably already have some preamp tubes based on conversations with the guy. So the amp is sounding okay besides that stock Ampeg hum. Pause this and tune up. All right, that's better. Tremolo works, everything works as you can hear. The tremolo is not quite as deep as it has been on other Ampegs from this era, but he says he's happy with it. I'd like to address the hum, but if he wants me to leave it alone, I'll leave it alone. The amp is safe. The one thing I really do need to change though is this input jack, probably both so that they cosmetically match, but the one I'm plugged into now, the accordion input, which has more gain than the guitar input, the jack itself is physically damaged, and there's noise when you plug in and unplug, and it contributes to hum unless something's plugged in. Because the normal is not shunting to itself. This tip is supposed to be ground connected to the tip shunt, and it's not. I can do it with this piece of plastic, but it's not optimal. Now, why am I hearing that? Ba, 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 ba? Is it just something riding on that wire? I thought I turned the tremolo off. I guess I just turned it down. So I need to change out. That's better. At least the noise is constant now. Here's without it shunted, making it shunt. And that's that noise you hear when you plug and unplug it. So it just needs some new switchcraft jacks. I'm going to try to get it okay to change that, even though that is beyond the power transformer. But I think it's pretty important for that to work well. I hate the ground scheme in old Ampegs. It's fairly random, and it's almost always noisy, as it certainly is here. But compared to how the amp was when it came in, where it didn't make any sound at all because there was no heater supply because of the transformer, it's worlds better. And I've not tried the reverb yet, but the owner said it was working just fine. So let me see if I can get him on the phone and see if I can change out those jacks. What's really fun when you work on one of these old amps is if you make a mistake and don't realize that the reverb knob is turned up, you get all kinds of hum when you first power it up. You think the world's about to end. So, Ampeg, Reverberocket. The stock ground scheme was terrible and had a lot more hum than you're hearing now, though there is still some hum. And I was able to reduce that quite a bit by putting this new chassis ground connection just for the filter caps and the HT center tap. It's not actually HT center tap, it's a bridge, diode bridge ground. So all the stuff in the reservoir, the first rectification stage, is going to chassis here. Almost everything else in the amp is going to chassis at the new input jacks, which do shunt properly. And so that source of noise is gone. And the stuff down at that end, down there, you can't see right now, is grounded to the back of one of these pots on the front panel. But that's from the factory. And that seems a lot better, but we still have a hum in the output. And I'm seeing if it's a problem with mismatched tubes, because one of them, the output tubes, is fairly microphonic. And if they're not drawing the same amount of current, if they're not matched to each other with the cathode biased amp, you will have hum in the output. The other option for the remaining hum is the old 7199 phase inverter tube. And these things are notoriously noisy. And this one's got some yuck. If I tap on it, and it used to make a lot of crackle if I moved it. The trouble with 7199s is that if you can get another one, they're $100. So if we need to change this out, there is a almost exact replacement tube called the 6AU7 or 6AU8. I'll look it up. It's very early in the morning for me to remember numbers, sorry. And while the pinout is different, you have to rewire it, the sound and behavior is the same. And I've done that on the past with Reverberockets with great success. So before I do anything else, I want to make sure we don't have any leaking DC here on the ceramic disc cap coming from the reverb. And we don't. So now I want to see if I can isolate the ground to a preceding stage or whether it's the phase inverter itself. And it could be the phase inverter 7199 and mismatched power tubes. So here I'm going to ground the reverb feed, no change. Now I'm going to ground the dry guitar signal, no change. So now I will ground the input of the 7199. Minor change, it's there. You may not hear it through the lav mic, but I can hear it in the room. But there is a hum that persists. So I'm pretty sure we have mismatched power tubes, and the one on the right is microphonic. And something in there just started making a little bit of noise. That 7199 is microphonic. And just stop. So I think we probably do need to change this tube. So for the owner, we definitely need a new pair of output tubes. I can't see what's printed on the tubes right now. I think it's a 7125. 7591. That's it. 7591s. Sorry. I have a weird thing where I can remember almost any word. I can remember entire soliloquies from Shakespeare, sonnets that I had to memorize in 8th grade, et cetera, et cetera. I can't remember sequences of numbers. If you ask me what my phone number is, I have to think about it. I have no idea what my wife's phone number is. Fortunately, it's saved in my phone, and I dial that one all the time. So it's 7591, 7199, 6AU8. All these numbers and acronyms and things I've got to remember, and sometimes I mess up, and so you'll get a video where I say EL 84 when I'm at 34 or vice versa. Forgive me, my brain is better than my number recall. But anyway, at this point, I think we probably do need a new pair of output tubes, and I would love to change out this very expensive, noisy 7199 for a nice, quiet 6AU8, I believe it is. And the 6AU8 is like $10 for a new old stock, good quality one. If you can find a 7199, it's $100, and there's no guarantee that the next one won't be as noisy as this one. Because if I tap on it, the static comes and goes. And I've cleaned the socket, I've cleaned the pins, and none of these joints here are faulty, but the tube itself gets a taste of the noises from time to time. So the muting tells an awful lot. Let me plug a guitar in though, and we can hear what it sounds like right now. All right, as I plug in now, that nasty noise that used to be there is gone. There's a little bit of a microphonic sound as I do that. Let me just triple check that all these wires on the front panel are quiet when vibrated. I think it's just the chassis moving just the slightest bit. The 12X7's slightly microphonic, and this 6 whatever, the 3 triode tube here, I can't remember which one, the 6K11 whatever, is a little bit microphonic, and the phase inverter is not great, and the output tubes are one of them is microphonic. Anyway, all that said, and the multi-section filter cap in here was done by the previous guy, and I have no guarantee that it's entirely good. I'll measure the capacitance after I power it off from this, but I've had iffy luck with modern replacement cans. But here's some guitar. a ton of lows. As you turn down the treble, the lows come up. Kind of interesting. It makes it a little bit difficult to find a balanced sound to my Fender biased ears. And they've got a resistor across the input and wiper of the volume pot. Kind of interesting circuit. And they wanted to have a very specific taper. There's some DC on the input. Let's see if that's the old 12X7, as I suspect. Make sure there's nothing leaking in the amp. Yeah, with the new 12X7, that leak, that nastiness is gone. Also seems to be a little bit louder in the volume. Tremolo seems to be on, but not very strong. Turn that off at the switch. Well, I'm not really sure how we could possibly be getting that vibrato sound with it off. What they are doing, if I can show this, move more stuff on my bench so the camera can slide over, is this is the cathode of the oscillation stage, the LFO stage. And the cap on that cathode is always grounded, but the cathode resistor is grounded or not through the foot switch. So right now there should be no oscillation in that LFO at all because that triode has no voltage on it. No current should be going through it. It's really odd. I'm sure in the playback you guys aren't hearing what I'm hearing because it's very far in the background. I suspect that that bypass cap is original to the amp. Either that or it was changed a long time ago, but all the other replaced bypass caps in this amp are newer, except for the one in the output. Yeah, this is an original, this Phillips. So let me just lift one end of this and see if that behavior goes away. That'll take the tremolo, should take the tremolo completely out of the circuit, including when all the way when bypassed. I guess this end will be easier. It's already been worked on. All right, so that cathode is totally separated from anything at this point. I suppose it's possible that that cathode bypass cap there has just enough ESR, equivalent series resistance, to give some kind of cathode reference even without a resistor there. I'm pretty sure that's what was happening. So I'm going to change out that cathode cap and the one in the output cathode bias. I'm pretty sure I've got the suitable caps here already, and see where that takes us. All right, a new cathode bypass cap for the tremolo, new cathode bypass cap in the output. And yes, these are on my list of things I would normally do as a matter of, just sight on, as soon as the amp comes in, that's on my list. But the owner asked for me to make as few changes as possible. So I'm trying to honor that while still give him a healthy amp. I want him to have the sound of the Reverberocket, the authentic sound, but without authentic problems. So here's the, and there's no more faint vibrato in the background. Let's see if changing that cap gave us a stronger vibrato. It did, but it's still not the world's greatest. In fairness, this is not the original optocoupler for the vibrato. The old one would have been mounted here. And I don't know which replacement this is, whether it's the best option. But it is working, and it is stronger than it was. And now it is actually out of the circuit when you turn it off. So. You have to turn both the treble and bass up quite a bit. They're about 2 o'clock to get a little more balanced sound, I think. Though that's in my test cab, not the old speaker in the combo, which we'll be testing later. Let's see where the gain goes on this thing. It's a little bit fizzy. But overall much healthier than we were. So at this point, I really do, we need a new 12X7. I think the owner's got a bunch of old 12X7s. That's not anything I necessarily need to do. But I have confirmed that all the nastiness is gone with a different AX7. I think this tube, which I believe is a 6U10, slightly microphonic, but working okay. The 7199, I really do think needs to be changed out, and the 6AU8, I believe that's the one, is a very cost-effective, identical sounding tube, or at least it's identical in the various Ampegs I've put it in, Reverberockets and Geminis. I'm sure in other amps there's some slight differences that you'd hear between those two slightly different tubes, but in the Ampeg circuits, they seem to be exact replacements. And then the output tubes, the 7591s, you should not be able to hear that through the speaker when I tap on it. At least not that loud. And that output hum, pretty sure they're mismatched. But, The important thing is we're talking about a 12AX7, a phase inverter tube, and some oldish JJ tubes. So that's not a lot standing between the amp and goodness. While I have it on the bench and it's all opened up, and I'm hopefully going to be changing some tubes, I'm putting this in the video. About the only two real crucial original film caps left in this amp that are in circuit, there's one down at the power end that's no longer connected to anything, are these two 100 microfarads, not microfarads, 100 nanofarads, sorry. And I think it'd be good to replace those as well, just because these caps fail a lot in old Ampegs, and a Mallory 150 is at $1.20 and will not have any issues whatsoever. But that is the owner's call, so I'm going to send him a link to this video and then talk to him after he's seen it. But it's certainly better than it was when it came in with the dead power transformer.